No. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Loss of Lieutenant. I'm your host Kevin, and on tonight's show, I'm joined by the winner of Burn City Brawl, John, to talk about how he guided Tohaa to the top. So, John, welcome to Loss of Lieutenant.
Thanks for having me.
John,
Always
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk bullshit, but you're going to interrupt me, so you don't get it now.
I'm in charge of this podcast tonight. So, this is another spotlight, folks. This is another BCB spotlight where we're going to interview the winner, and obviously John has not been on the show before, so we're just going to get straight into getting to know John a little bit and his Infinity background. So, first of all, whereabout in Australia are you from, John? Originally?
Lovely Rockhampton in central Queensland. So find Brisbane, go 650 kilometres north, and find the Tropic of Capricorn, and that's where I am.
There you go. And
so everything's a double.
Your entire life?
To get any? No, all over the place. Born and bred. Sort of went away, did stuff, lived in New Zealand, Korea, got married, came back home, had children. Story.
Sounds good. I've not made it up to that part of the world before. I think the furthest north or south. I never remember where Cairns is in relation to Rocky.
Cairns is about 1,000 kilometers north. so it's like a weekend trip. You know, you gotta lunch.
Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with Australia, Queensland is a big ass state. All right, so
we usually car trips in the day. No, we usually measure car trips in how many days it'll take.
Yeah. It still blows my mind, even after living here for 10 years. All right, so let's get into your sort of wargaming and Infinity background. What was your Infinity journey like, and when did you start?
To be honest, I forget the year, but it was when Foes got released. I had massively gotten the. Am I allowed to swear? Shit's like.
Yeah,
can we swear?
There's an explicit thing on every one of these episodes.
Cool. So I got the shits with 40k. We've been playing 40k since I was 15, 14, doing that competitively, traveling around Brisbane, Sydney, that sort of stuff. And there was an edition change, and it was one of those I was overpaying the GW tax. And Infinity just looked really cool. So I said to everybody, that's it, I'm out, and this is what I'm playing, you can come too. And some people did. What? And that's how we started the CQ Infinity scene.
Do you recall what edition of that was?
Oh, it was second. It was late second. So probably a year and ended.
And then what edition of 40k would that have been, just out of interest?
Probably the transition from 6th to 7th.
Right.
But I can't remember. It could have been. I don't think it was 5th to 6th, because that one wasn't too bad, but it would have been 6th to 7th.
Okay. And then was there what's the community like up in Rockhampton now? Or Rocky, if you prefer to be called that?
Oh, Rocky, whatever. Hell, I'm sure there's acronyms around. Like, you go up on the map, you look down, and it spells hell. It does. But it's great. The Infinity we have, it's probably waned a little bit, but it's starting to pick back up. Probably got 7, 8 super regulars, and then there's like another 8 that are on the fringes, but we've just gotten the last year, 2 years, sorry, Gladstone. But anyway, we've got a town about 100 kilometres south to us called Gladstone. It's a big major industrial town, and we've they sort of started, and we helped feed them and help them out as much as we could, but they've got about 8 to 10 regulars and a few on the fringes that sort of come and go. So we sort of do a lot with them now, and they come up to our events and we go down to theirs, which is almost like a day trip. So we have Zach's been running, is it bi-monthly or month, maybe every 3 months, but we've done like 6 tournaments, just 1 day of tournaments this year. I'm usually getting about 10 people. Probably we've got some really top level players like Zach, who went down to BCB and got 5th. Kendall down in Gladstone, and most of the other Gladstone guys, like most of the guys is Jeremy and Clancy have all won away tournaments as well. Like, so our local guys punch pretty hard, and we play a fairly high level. Sorry, my dog's decided that the neighbour's cats annoyed him enough.
Yeah, it's quite a diverse, quite a, like for being that far north and that far removed from the capital of Brisbane. I think it sounds like I feel like the your community is more active than even what's going on in Brizzy at the moment.
Um, they're certainly bigger, but we've got like a lot of diehards that are very, will sort of play as much as we can. Um, whereas from what I see, people seem to come in and out a fair bit down there, or they're not wanting to be in the events. Where we love the events, we love the getting in and having a good competition, and the ITS standard and all that kind of stuff, and pushing it in that regard. So we're at least every. I don't think we're every month, but every 2 months at least having an event.
Okay. Yeah, and I think maybe you're fairly. Maybe I'm slightly clouded by how active your community is because Wana, who's actually on the chat right now, is from that neck of the woods as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you guys are pretty active, even if you're not like the largest group of players. You're fairly active and out there and like to travel. I guess maybe being that far north is mean you kind of have to, right? You don't have a luxury of like, oh, I just travel quickly down for a game. It's everything's a day or a weekend trip.
Everything's got to be planned, but I also think it's just got to do with Rockhampton's full of assholes, and we like to represent. So we like
Well,
to make sure we're there. We like to make sure everyone knows we're here, and hey, we're important.
well,
As a small man syndrome, small country town, we just you gotta punch up, man.
well. I mean, we'll maybe get into it in your games, but as far as I'm aware, I don't think anyone would have described you as an arsehole at BCB. But we'll. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Everyone's very nice in Melbourne.
Well, it depends on how. See, that's it. I ran over your questions with my wife, and she said, "How truthful are you actually going to be with how much thought you put into this?"
Yeah, we're just gonna go into a big brain deep dive and realize that John did not big brain this tournament whatsoever. Um, all right, well, we'll get quickly back to just Infinity because you mentioned obviously you went away from 40k and start playing Infinity. So like, how what pulled you in with Infinity and like what's kept you playing?
You know that photo of all the asses that goes around pick your faction?
Yeah,
Yeah, that started it.
really?
Got to
Yeah.
start the game. Oh, it was a joke. It was like, hey, this is kind of funny. This community is kind of a bit quirky, and we looked at the community in Brisbane. Viz One, Daniel down there, he did a lot of help with us getting us sorted with the rules and things. But it was this the community like Carlos would actually go and post in the Facebook group. The Facebook was super active. Like people were super interactive. Everyone was friendly. It wasn't the 40k. Yeah, we're competitive and you guys are jerks and everyone's very standoffish. Where everyone was super inviting. There was all the memes. Like crit posting wasn't a thing then, but it was still a thing. It's like videos were still passed around before there was YouTube. There was crit posting before there was crit posts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was that really drew me in. The models were great. It was something a bit fresh and new. It wasn't let's line up 100 guys and march across the table. There's something, I sort of sat down with it, and when I sort of grasped the rules and realized that, this was resource management, not two waves of water crashing into each other, like, most large 40 game, large tabletop games are. Whereas this game was actually resource management. And so that was really different. And that was one thing that really drew me to it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Actually, two waves, like other games, maybe. Yeah,
They are. You look at, like, so many of them is just two waves crashing into each other and see what survives at the end. Whereas Infinity is you've got those 15 orders over 3 turns, 45 orders. Try and maintain as many of them as you can and get the job done in that time. You have 45 actions and that's it, maximum.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to lose some.
Yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it. I like that. So what was your first army?
Aleph. I started with assault no, assault subsection. So stuff. Oh my god, my brain.
The Achilles
I've spent
Steel
time.
Phalanx.
The Achilles Steel Phalanx. That's the one. Yeah. Diomedes. The Diomedes model was my first model. That's the one that just went. That's it. That's like we were told. Look at the models, find the one you like the most, or the one that draws you in, and that's your faction. And it was really true. Steel Phalanx fit me to a T. Played them for a while. Moved into vanilla ALF as well because you kind of expanded out your factions. and then went from sort of just started collecting things on the side and growing other factions. Like I bought a bit of nomads as my next faction, but never even got around to building them, which is actually now funny because they're the faction I'm building right now. So I have all these nomads from 10 years of collecting that I'm like, oh wow, I completely forgot I had that. But Tohaa was actually the third army I bought, and the first time I ever played it was BCB last year. So I got that assembled and painted, and actually I think I assembled it like 4 years ago and never got around to painting them, but then got them painted. And the first time I ever played them was game 1 at BCB last year.
Oh, last year. In my head, I was like,
Yeah.
"Did you say this year?" Because I was like,
No, last year. So,
yeah.
But then I've played Pano competitively, NCA and vanilla. The last couple of years before Tohaa, I did Akari and JSA for the year. So I kind of like pick a faction and stick with them for a couple of years and then move to the next.
Yeah. Did you? I know the bit of history with that Akari army. It was an army made up almost entirely of limited edition figures. Did that project ever get completed?
God no, I'm the chaos. I cannot stand painting. It is like watching. I don't know. There is something about it that just I cannot do it. So I'll get them sort of undercoated and I'll get a little bit done. I mean, we'll come back to it. It's not like I'm giving up on them, but it's one I wanted. Like I had it sort of sitting there, and for a long time I thought this will be fun. But I think the last game you played against it was at Nova in 20. That was last year. So a bit of background. My wife had a major medical event last year, and I was that was sort of a bit of a break. So she had that in April, and then I think it was in May or June. No, it would have been
June because it was the Queen's or now King's birthday long weekend is what it was on. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a memorable weekend because while I was away, my father-in-law died. So that was pretty crazy. Bit of a rough year last year, but I actually, because I've been so caught up with my wife's medical stuff, I actually built that force the morning of the tournament in the hotel, like was gluing and putting bases on. So I've had no practice with it at all. But anyway, I'll get there one day. But I've got a small business. I've got 3 special needs kids, and I've got a wife now with a pretty major medical condition. So finding time for hobby is pretty rare. Getting away and getting practice games has got to be well planned in advance at the moment. But we're getting there, and so I think So Akari was interesting, like that's force. I think Nomads is what I'm putting together at the moment. Just I've never done anything with hacking really that much. It's always been a side thought or a little thing. So I'm going to go with core hacking for the next 12 months with triple interventors. Looks pretty fun. 6 cents in a link. So, and then some surprise deployable repeaters and fast pandas from hidden deployment. Sounds like some fun, and to really like just mess with people's plans and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Nomads will do that. A good guided missile list with a bunch of hackers and fast pandas.
It's just something that'll as people come across the table, they've got just to mess break plans. The idea will be that they have the good old everyone's got the best plans until you get punched in the head, and then you've got to wing it. So I just want to punch people in the head and make their plans go to hell.
Well, I mean, yeah, given your track record in games and also the previous armies, we've got Tohaa that we're going to talk about tonight that are famously a gear check army, Steel Phalanx that are just riddled with min -6 and close combat for days, and then now moving into Nomads where they're like, fuck you, I will hack you. It sounds on brand. It sounds good. Quick one before we get into BCB. Do you play any other miniature war games other than Infinity now?
I haven't really for a couple of years because I've been like COVID stopped a lot of stuff, and I started a small business, so that takes a lot of time. But I've got Malifaux. and I've got bolt action as well, Finns with bolt action. I love, like, it's an all infantry force, so there's no tanks, no nothing, no vehicles, just a bunch of special forces Finns running around the table with sniper rifles and making everyone's life hell.
Well, yeah, that sounds fun. I mean, like you say, you don't get an awful lot of time to play games, and when you that time it gets divided every time you add a new game to the mix. I know I find it hard enough to get games of Infinity, and then when I add a second game, you end up just getting no games of anything at some point.
It's actually like, I was really super sad because I'm normally a complete sucker for everything CB puts out, collectors wise, everything. Like, I don't think there's anything I've missed for a long time. Like, I just had my Puppy bundle from this year's Enter Planet Ontario show up yesterday or the day before.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's sitting there on the. I was building Nomads last night and those. So, but I got the one from last year and tracked those sort of stuff down. So, but the starter for Warcrow, I Adventures, I just looked at it and went, I will never get to play this. Like, it will sit on the shelf, and I will never get to play it. So I just couldn't do it. I couldn't justify that many dollars going all in for something that will never get played.
Yeah, I did this. I did the same with Defiance, right? And it's just, I mean, sure, the minis are there, but I mean, I sold.
Oh no, I backed Defiance. The minis was too hard to not say no to, so I went all in on that and all in on
Tag Raid.
Tag Raid as well. So waiting for all of that to still get here.
Is that Is that being shipped? That's being shipped soon, isn't it?
I believe in the next month or two, but it's been the next month or two for a while. But it'll get here when it gets.
It'll be good to see those miniatures. I guess they will be a bit more useful than having.
Well, diggers are certainly pretty interesting after playing with them with the curry. I think they've got a lot of place. There's a lot of really cool sort of hackers and industrial style, and like that you can't get from a lot of the other lines. So there's some really interesting sort of bringing different themes to the miniatures that they can do. And the Beast Hunters, certainly everyone seems to love to get those out and about. So having some actual models will be very good.
Yeah. I think I have been proxying Alberto as a Beast Hunter for almost a year now. So I didn't back the Tag Raid, so I'll have to wait for the general release or beg someone else to give me theirs. All right. Well, anyway, we'll get into the actual meat of the episode now. We'll start talking about BCB. So you mentioned there before, life obviously is a bit hectic, and making time to play games is hard. So what was your how did you sort of decide or work out how to attend Burn City Brawl?
Oh, I love away tournaments. I love to travel for them. And it sort of lets me pack. Like, instead of getting a little bit of free time all over the place, I can go, here's one big chunk of free time. I'll pre-cook meals for everyone at home. I'll get everything. I'll make sure there's someone who can come around and help, with things to make sure the house still functions. And I'll take a big chunk in one go. And that's sort of how I operate. So I knew I was going to go. The second you announced, I think I'm hopefully one of the first that booked a ticket. I wanted to go last year I obviously made it. The year before, I think there was one when COVID that got cancelled, and the year before, you guys announced the date really late, so I couldn't make that fit.
The one after COVID, we had to move it a couple of times because we kept going into lockdown. Yeah. So it was a bit tricky.
Yeah, so I couldn't make that one just because of you guys. It is what it is, but so yeah, I love a good away tournaments. I keep pestering people in Sydney. You guys have got to set something up. And so I get an excuse to go to Sydney as well. So, and I even looked at going to New Zealand. They've got theirs, but it's in some weird remote location. So I'm half Kiwi, so getting over there is good. But it's in a really weird spot. Like,
that's the one near Wellington, isn't it? It's at the brewery
in Wellington. It's like north on the west coast, like a couple of 100 k's north of Wellington on the west coast. I haven't quite worked out how the logistics of getting there, so I might not be able to make that work. But yeah, I try and get to everything in Brisbane, but people keep having this crazy thing of booking things on significant birthdays. Like, my son's birthday is usually CanCon, my other son's is then BrizCon. So trying to get to those events, I've got a good track record of that happening. But as for BCB, I always knew I was going to go. It was just a matter of you guys announcing it and booking flights and booking accommodation and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's good. It feels really good to hear, like, people who are like keen, for an event like that, and are ready to hit that, like, pay button when the tickets come out, especially when you're traveling for it.
I've got to be the biggest sucker. Like, we've got the Rockhampton to Brisbane tax, so we have to add $200 to all flights anyway to get in and out. So it's I'm probably crazy, but I'm a sucker for it. Everyone's got to have a top hobby, and away tournaments are my thing.
Yeah, no, I do love an away tournament, and I know this weekend you're having your own 2-day event,
We are
Bovine Tech 4, that we've been promoting.
Yes. So we're up to number 5 now, and we're keeping the cow puns strong.
Yeah, no, you're doing very well, and I would have loved to have gone up for it this weekend. It's just a bit too much right now for work. And then, as a side note as well, I'm recovering from some broken ribs. So I'm not feeling particularly mobile at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's always I mean, everyone's got life in the way, but it's good. We've got good numbers coming, so I'm sure. Yeah, I still haven't settled on my list for this weekend. I might use it as my first ever game of Nomads if I can get them built. We'll see how we go, and then we'll start practicing from there. But yeah, no tournaments. So we'll just go with there. But yeah, no, this weekend should be great.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures and the updates from it, and hopefully there's a few people traveling up from other
There's
cities.
A few from Townsville, a few from Brisbane. So.
Oh, great, excellent, good to know. Okay, so your decision to play Tohaa, you said that you played them for the first time last year at BCB. Was this just try them again? See if you can win?
No, I'm kind of settled on that. Like I said before, I'll pick a faction and play it for a year or two. And I decided last year was going to be the year of Tohaa, and played my first game with them at BCB and played most of the events. I think I played every local event with Tohaa, and then I thought, well, you're still in the same ITS season, so you guys are going to get them again down at BCB.
Yeah, right. It's interesting, but I haven't spoken to anybody that's played BCB so far that has chosen an army based on the missions. They've all just gone, I'm playing this army anyway, let's just play them through the missions.
I mean, you can, and I certainly, Zach is the worst for this. He sends me lists every second day or day, and he knows it.
Calling him out.
And I'll send, all the time, and he loves that I can pull them apart for him. And I'll send ones back, and he simply says to me, I can't read your list, man. I do not know how you play this game. You are the weirdest list writer in creation. And I got nothing. So hey, we're always bouncing lists around and all that kind of stuff. And Zach's very much will tailor his army to the event. But I'm like, no, this is what I want to play. This is what I'm feeling, and go with it.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, let's get into your lists. So I'm behind the controls tonight, so apologies, listeners. This might be slightly shit. I don't have the IT specialists on the cast tonight, but we'll actually, you're an IT specialist. I should be getting you to do this.
Don't say that. People ask me to fix it.
Right, we're over here now. Where are we? So we've got this. Oh no, that's paused. There we go. Oh, it's gone back over to full screen. All right, there we go. Okay, so I don't know if you're watching on this, John, or you just got the list up on your own, but I've got your list up on here.
And now, so if you see me look aside, it's like, actually, what I'll do, I'll just put that there. Secret.
Aha. So this is the single list that you ran for the event. We don't have 2 lists to get through, just the one. So would you like to go through the list and then your reasons for taking the things you did?
Yeah, so it's a fairly similar list to what I've been running even since last year. So I'll go, because I kind of wrote this list last year for BCB, and it's just kind of evolved, to change a couple of units at a time. So was playing around with it, and then I think it could have been Julian or one of the other major Tohaa players around the country, because there's a few guys that I was playing around with. It was very similar, but I hadn't, like I said, I hadn't even played a practice game with them, so I hadn't had the chance to sort of go, well, that's crap, that's that. Working around, the Tequil and then Sukil's leading the units, which are essentially the good gunfighters. BCB last year, I ran a Spitfire Sukil, and after much digress. I gave up on that after Julian and everyone was saying, just don't do it. Just go the double, the lieutenant +1 order and let it run at the end. So I like, okay, after BCB, because I was running the Spitfire Tequel last year, switched to this, and God, that unit steals games. Like, it will really, like, it is obnoxiously bad for the opponent at just, it looks like this nice, it's just a lieutenant with a combi rifle, and they all know it's your lieutenant, and they know it's got, end game and can do all the Pharaoh stuff, but it's one guy. How bad can it be? Oh my God, that unit is obnoxious.
So this is the same loadout as the Spitfire version. It just has a combi rifle instead, right?
It's got a combi, yeah.
And it's obviously cheaper as well.
It's cheaper. I was putting it with a Kamau Hacker and a McCall, which Kamau's just the basic line entry, McCall's the warband. Just because I had the spare orders, the Hacker was kind of put in there because I saw something interesting on the Sukils. The Sukil K1 combi has a deployable repeater. Now, Tohaa. So anyway, I should go back a step even. So the list was designed with a lot of traps and a lot of decoys for a lot of people. So I figured medium level players who have never really played Tohaa are going to struggle a little bit. And, we'll just play those games and it should be straightforward. But there's some veterans out there who know Tohaa and know them really well and know their weaknesses and know how to take advantage of them. Like, nothing above ballistic skill 13.
No sixth sense.
All those standard Tohaa, weaknesses. The veterans know those, and there's been a lot of strong players playing Tohaa for quite a while. So I wanted to make it seem normal, but put a few abnormal things in there that would catch people off guard.
Okay.
And one thing I noticed was the deployable repeater on the Sukil, and then coupling. And I made a habit, and this is again where I'm not going to make any friends admitting a lot of the dirty tricks I pull, but with Tohaa, not a lot of people knowing it, and a lot of the same names and a lot of weird things. I make it a habit of going through every unit and explaining things in detail, and pointing things out to make sure that there are no. Because the idea of winning a game through, you didn't know my unit had this level 2 ability and now I win the game because you didn't know what this thing does. So I don't like that. I think that's really terrible. So I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of everything and what it was all capable of, especially people that weren't super familiar with it. But against the veterans, I'd make sure I'd point out, hey, the Sukil has a deployable repeater and then make sure there's a Kamal hacker over them. Like, he's actually going to try hacking his Tohaa. I never did. It was a complete ruse.
It's a tool you had though. It's a tool you have,
and it's good for a couple of classifieds. But you look at a Kamal hacker, it's not beating anyone. It's really not. I
think it's smart though, because one of the things that I hear a lot about people who are trying to deal with Tohaa will be like, fair aware doesn't work against structure. I'll run structure at them, and then you're like, I have a hacker with a repeater. I won't run my structure unit against that particular Harris.
That sort of stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing I did is I've got an impersonator in there, and I didn't take Janstar. And I took where is it?
You got the Greif operator.
The Greif, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I was trying to remember the name. So I was hoping a lot of people. So my playstyle, and Zach knows this, and all the locals know that I'm an incredibly good defensive player. I really love to be on the second turn. I love to use AROs as my attacks, so force you into positions where I'm going to shoot you. I think this is what I did to you when we played it in Anzac Cup one year. I think the first game we played where I had Achilles.
Yeah. You just forced me to wait orders against Nagima. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll heavily use AROs and funnel people to where I want them. So I like to be defensive. I like to do most of the work in the ARO phase and then use the active turn for repositioning. It's just my play style. It's how I work. And I knew if people see the list and see there's an impersonator, well, they're going to go, well, I want you to go second, because it screws up Janstar's combo with the
bombs and mates and stuff like that. Yeah,
the bombs and mates.
Yeah.
So having people think, I've made him go second when it's actually what I wanted, that sort of stuff went into the list building. The other thing that I take that most people don't is the Gao Taos, which is the jump troop.
Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while.
He is amazing. He wins games. I mean, he's got D charges. It's a paramedic specialist, which the tournament was heavily paramedics, like bonuses. You can bring them in from the side. They're 2 wounds, armor 3. It's essentially a drop troop, heavy infantry that's a specialist with D charges and can do half of the classified deck.
Yeah, so this is a combi rifle D charges. Yeah, so 31 points, BS 12. But I mean, you're taking it because it's armed. It's
BS 12 is good.
2 wounds.
Like, yeah, BS 12 is fine. Like when you're running Tohaa and there's nothing amazing in there, like 13's the best you're going to get on a couple of units. 12's fine, and you learn to love it.
It's all you need, baby. Yeah, no. When I looked at your list before we started the show, that was the one unit that I guess jumped out at me as going, oh, I haven't seen. I mean, drop troops in general sometimes get a bit of a bad rap. So just even seeing the Tohaa version is interesting.
So that was probably one choice. I did get one playtest game in before the event, and I was playing around with the infiltrating.
Oh,
sorry, my brain.
Yeah, not the Gao.
The close combat one, the Gao.
The Gao, yeah, that's it.
With one of them has mirror ball. And I thought, let's have a look at what we can do is like to try and make this even more order efficient. Let's put in a Gao forward deployed or infiltrated to where I'm going to go. And so instead of having to have the units throw their own smoke out and spend orders, like move smoke, I'll have the Gao just do it, and then I don't even have to do those, those move smokes. I can just go move, and be even faster and more efficient. It kind of worked, but it was, if you needed to, like if a Gao was placed out and then they countered it, and you wanted to reposition those troops in a different direction, you lost all the efficiency. So it was kind of, if someone countered it, you kind of lost what you were doing and then had to spend more, So
yeah.
Instead of giving the opponent the ability to hurt me, I just went, well, let's just go with the old true and we'll use the drop trooper, which I know can be effective in classified and certainly getting into the back line.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great piece to have it, but sometimes when it's your only camo marker in the midfield, it can get dug out, especially if that's what you want to happen. You want to go second, right? So,
yeah,
a savvy opponent would be like, "Oh, that's a Nagao," because it can only really basically be a Nagao unless it's well, it can't even be a Liberto. So, yeah, is. Whereas, the Gao tar sauce, people don't expect it. They might be expecting a clip sauce instead. So yeah, that's interesting. We'll go quickly over your list from top to bottom, just for those people who are not on the stream who can't who are listening along in their car. Do you want to take it from the top and just kind of go, and also then just talk about the fire teams, because I always get them confused as to who's with what.
Yeah, let me just make sure. I realized the list I had loaded was the wrong one, so bear with me 1 sec.
Oh no, I don't think too different. You've so far talked on all the same models that I've been looking at.
Yeah. All right, so we've got a Tequil Lieutenant with +1 order, combi rifle, a Macau viral CC, a Kamal Hacker with combi rifle, then the Sukiel K1 sniper rifle, and then 2 Keltors, one with chain of command, both with symbiote mates and bombs. Then there's a Sukiel, and that forms a link. So those first 3 can form a link, but usually the Tequil will break out from it. It's really, and also the McCall, a couple of he's also can be just put there and use. He's got impetuous, so it's just like a warband running forward.
So you tend to start the fire team with the Tequil in it, or do you have the McCall?
Depending on depends on the mission. It's like sometimes if I want the McCall as a bit of a speed bump, is something they've got to waste some orders on. So I need if I want to drain a few of their orders, I'll just let the McCall go. But if not, I'll leave it back and can then do something with it, or I can send it up to become the replacement for a team that might have lost someone. Just keep options open, or it has that up. So it's usually either saved to be filler for a team that's lost someone, or to run up to be that distraction, that speed bump, that something order sponge to suck some orders out of the opponent because they have to deal with it. Okay. So they're the sort of 2 options to do with it. And then the other link team was the K1 sniper with the 2 Keltors and the chain of command. Just put them somewhere defensive. The Sukiel usually get a mate. The K1 sniper, just to give it that more survivability. Just it's most of the time it's there to suck up orders, do a little bit of damage, do a bit of board control, just do as much damage and be annoying as it can. So then this is the link. The next link team is the one that gets most of the work done. So it's a K1 combi Sukiel. And then I really love the Sakurels. They were more of an N2, N3 unit that a lot of other Tohaa players don't like them. But they've got symbio armor, EM grenades, specialist in this case, a paramedic. I also really love the light rocket launcher in a link. That guy is burst 3, like a Spitfire, but burst 3, but can hit people with continuous damage in the template. He's really great for just sniping units around a corner. So I really rate the Sukiels, especially putting on. I usually use the Sukiels to take, not the Sukiels, the Sakurels to take the symbio bombs, because a lot of people don't realize with bombs, obviously a lot of people use them for the Fairware endgame, to do damage and that sort of stuff. But I will also use them for mirror ball, because when you drop a mate, there's a neg3, like surprise. It's not surprise, but the similar to surprise attack, where if you drop out a mate, drop out a bomb, it'll put them in a neg3. So if you throw smoke, you drop out mirror ball from a mate, from a bomb. Sorry, long day at work.
Mm-hmm.
You can put them in a neg3 from a whip 13. That's a pretty good chance of getting that off in a face to face. And suddenly they thought, oh, there's no Fairware mirror ball there. He'll have to use the McCall to throw some smoke or something like that. And then suddenly you're just going like, pop, there's some smoke, and they're like, oh, just things that they wouldn't see coming.
And the fact that you can do that without even needing line of fire, you just do it slowly.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
If you're worried about something coming up in your grill, like a Sujan or something like that, you can just be like, mirror ball, nope.
Yeah, exactly. And then if they do get in close enough to you, you're dodging into close combat with 1, maybe 2 models and the McCall, and that's not going to end well for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of that. And then I've got the Grief Operator, decharges, +1 burst breaker pistol, so he's not even a slouch in close combat. If you can get into CC with some basic line infantry, he's usually going to win that because he's burst 2. So they're really great at clearing out line infantry.
Oh yeah, CC17 is not bad. Actually, it's not too bad. It's not great.
Not when
but
you're
with
going
burst
over
2,
something with 13, like,
mm-hmm.
or like some remotes with really terrible like 8, like, and your burst 2, it's pretty good. And so that makes the first combat group. So 10 orders, 2 lieutenant orders, a couple of impetuous if you decide to use them. Then group 2 is the Nakul. So your sapper sniper, the Gout Taos drop trooper, diplomatic delegate. They're amazing. You just put them somewhere to it just gives you blocks a line of attack your opponent can have, because with their Fairware they can isolate. So they're using a razor, which is isolation. So just anyone who walks down there is just not going to have a good time. Links are going to get messed up. And then 2 chucks are baggage spots after that.
Right. So yeah, it does seem like a sort of, not to say standard Tohaa list, but it's hitting all the same kind of notes as a lot of other Tohaa lists. So just so I'm getting this right, you will usually start then with the K1 sniper with two kill towers as one Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll have another one of the Sukiel K1 combi, a McCall, and the Sakiel as another.
The Sakiel paramedic.
Yep, as another, and then the third is in group 2. Then is that, or is there
no? The third's in the main group, which will be the Tequil, the Kamal, and the other McCall.
And the other McCall, yeah, okay. So that's 3. Yeah, so you got three Harrises there, and then the Grief Operator. Right, and then the Takiel can then burst out of that if he wants to use his 2 lieutenant orders at any point. Yep, cool. And then group 2 is again the Nicole obviously can't be linked. It's a Sapper MSV1.
Yep.
MSV1. And then I guess Chaxas, because they're 10 points of goodness. Also, one of the missions was frontline, so I guess that's useful too.
Yep.
Yeah, I will often see like a Harris in the group 2, but this is more of a sort of almost as like a entirely kind of defensive, do nothing second
Group
group,
2 is
right?
there to fuel the Galataros.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, sorry, yeah. It looks like it's doing nothing, but it's got 4 orders. So an opponent would look at it and go, well, there's nothing worth docking from this group except whatever is in group 2, which I don't know what it is. It's probably Eclipse Sauce. Do I care about docking 2 orders from Eclipse Sauce, or would I rather dock 2 orders from, and obviously only if you're going first. So yeah, no, I think definitely from you talking to yourself, talking to Julian, talking to like people like Rob Cantrell, seeing the tag heel appearing a lot, the K1 combi and the Suki
Yeah, I
heel.
saw that from them. 100%.
I guess, and I think it might have even been Rob that mentioned that he's sort of, I don't know if he said he stopped running the Q10 imposters, but he's it like you say, it sort of telegraphs, like you're playing Tohaa, oh, there's going to be a Q10, right? I better make sure that I don't give him. It's like running up against any impersonator. You don't really want to give them first turn.
Yeah.
So then, by not having one, then you've not lost anything. You're not really missed out on anything. And even if you do end up going first, the grief operator is useful in that it actually can shoot over 8 inches away. Like the other Q10s only have like shotguns. This guy's got MSV1 and a combi rifle and is perfectly capable of taking out things like flash pulse bots on turn 1.
Yeah, he is brilliant at pulling out orders and running it, like, because he can start so far up, can get easy access. He's the reserve model 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just to take those easy kills that can get to, and then if you do end up in close combat, you've got that burst too.
Yeah, and the decharges are quite useful in things for classifieds as well.
Yep. You just start somewhere, and the first order is, hey, I blow that up and I've done my classified.
Yeah. All right, so you mentioned you didn't get an awful lot of practice in, but with this list, how many games do you reckon you actually played with this list?
Oh, well, like I said, this list has pretty much been a list that's just evolved a little bit since BCB last year. So I've probably played 40 or 50 games with it.
Okay.
At events. Like, we run like mini events where we get 3 games in one weekend. I think we had 6 of those. We had a 2-day event with CareCon last year. That's 5 games. BCB last year is 5 games. A 2-day in Gladstone locally. That's another 5 games. And then the practice games, just general games that I've had throughout the year. I've probably done 40 or 50 games with this force, but just making minor tweaks. So it's something I've gotten quite a few with. From 0 games last year at BCB and only losing to Julian and 1 draw, to this year, being able to push through pretty hard with it. I was a lot more familiar with it, a lot more with the tricks and just a lot. Once you've played that many games, you get very good at navigating around the table and knowing when to pick fights and when not to.
Yeah, for sure. This will probably be a good time just to get into a couple of listener questions that we put. I asked our patrons in the chat to ask some questions if they had any for you. So we've got one here from Hoppy. So they ask, because you obviously only got one list, they want to know, what was your reasoning for taking only a single list?
So I didn't have to learn a second. It's purely around not having to waste any thought or brain power on coming up with a second one. And I was pretty familiar with it. It could do what the list I had could do all the missions. I'm fine. Like, it's not like I wanted a list that could deal with, camo markers. I didn't really need a list that was going to deal with heavy infantry. Like, this could do all of it. I was very happy with that. I didn't see the need for a second list. I'm fairly, because I'm very lazy man, because there's so many other things, not wasting time, but using time and brain energy. Like, the amount I've stumbled this thing, you can tell I'm pretty tired even tonight after today. There's having to get a second list together and worry about it and think about which one and then get practice games with it. It's just, I could get it done with one, so why put the energy into a second?
No, it seems fair enough. Another sort of follow-up question then is, we're going to talk about sort of what what were you confident about with this list, but also Zephyr is asking as well, like what what sort of trouble what gives you trouble running to playing Tohaa, and sort of like what were you concerned running Tohaa into this suite of missions for BCB?
So most of my play testing is against Zach and Ben, like up here in Rocky, and against the others. And Zach knows me better than my wife does now with across the table, and he beats me thoroughly all the time. So I get beaten up a lot and lose. And he's picked my play style. He knows that I'm defensive. He knows that I can't get across the table. So the thing that worried me was someone who can pick what I'm up to. So I like to keep a lot of mystery to what's going on across the table. When we talked about the list, and like there's a lot of things in there to distract and keep people off guard. So if someone can figure out what I'm up to and go, hey, you're only BS 12 and with a little bit of 13, if I do this and come at you that way, you're just going to fall apart. So people realizing that there's a lot of misdirection going on, that's really my concern, if that makes a lot of sense. Like when we start talking about the games, I'll talk about games where I knew I was outmatched. Like I knew the opponent across the table had more firepower, better firepower. If I went face to face, I was going to lose. So I have to come up with different tactics, and I have to use that misdirection. So that's the concern. If someone figures out that, and what was the other half to the question?
It was just sort of I guess just sort of general things that if you were to face across the table and go, oh, this is gonna be a hard matchup. Not taking away the player, just looking at a specific army. Was there anything you were concerned about coming across the table?
Not really.
I mean, I'll venture and say maybe Morats, just because of their veteran and like they have got a few quite good structure units. No, basically.
So I don't get a lot of practice games in. Like I can only sort of, because we don't have a big wide community here, and like there's only a few armies I get to practice against. So coming against armies I don't get to play a lot. Like I don't play against Yu Jing a lot, and I don't know them very well. And especially you say a lot of names, and I'm going to like, yes, I know what that is. Not at all. So
what armies do you get to play against a lot up there?
So Ariadna, Pano, especially Militant Orders with Zach. He does a lot of White Banner. Hack Islam, Nomads, Shazvasti, and CA a fair bit. But then I've played a lot of factions myself, so I know Pano in and out. I know Aleph in and out. I know most of the NA2 armies in and out. I've played combined, so I know them quite well. So it's really about knowledge of the force that's across the table. Like an individual list won't bother me, or like, oh no, heavy infantry's bad. Like I've got K1, I can deal with heavy infantry. I can deal with tags. I can deal with lots of light infantry. People coming across the table, I can use various things to slow people down. I suppose it's knowing specific units and a lot of their plays in and out, that sort of stuff. Just when, what I talked about before, like I hate the idea of having a unit that's got some ability that's very unique to them that doesn't get used a lot, and that being the reason I lose a game because, you didn't know that this interacts with that. X doesn't interact with Y to give Z result. Your knowledge wasn't completely encyclopedic. Those sort of things. So that's why Tohaa does that a lot to a lot of people. That's why I really try and emphasize that, hey, these are all the special things we've got. Do you know them? Here they all are. Here's the courtesy list. I want to make sure that you're aware of all this stuff and what's coming at you.
Yeah, well, that's really good to hear. Yeah, I mean, I think Tohaa is a bit of a running joke for a long time. No one knows what any of the units do. Tohaa farts suck, and that's like it's been that for a long time. So it's good to have, and also they are out of production, so they don't see that much table time. I know in Melbourne, since Julian stopped playing, I haven't seen Tohaa on the table in about a year.
Well, that's one of the things I want to do. Like it was the second force I ever got, and I hadn't in 10 years got around to playing them. So I said, I better get these to and play these competitively for at least a year before they get taken out of the game. Not that PB is But there's always whatever happens. Or it's like what happened. Like I used to play Shazvasti before they got their re-released, and I love the Gauos links. The
the Gualos link?
Gaulos link.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you used to be able to run them in a 5-man link. It was amazing because you get cover out in the open and all that kind of stuff, and they completely took that out. So it's one of the reasons I stopped playing Shazvasti, because they took away my toys.
So it's spoken like a typical war gamer. All right. Let's get into the games then, shall we? So I'm gonna bring up Let me just stop this stream again while I actually get this figured out. Let's get the stuff up on the screen. Bear with me, technical difficulties here. Oh, as per usual, the thing always decides to go full screen. Right, so we're going to get into your 5 games, and we're going to, of course, sorry about this, gang. I just had all the photos up, and they've just gone away. There we go. All right. So professional. There we go. All right. Should be up on the screen now. I'll maybe just zoom this in a bit so it's a bit easier to see. Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. All right. I've done it. Okay, so your first round, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this the table you played on?
That is the one.
Yep. So this is Nick Two Hills table. This is a mixture of Arsenal. We talked about in the last episode, actually. It's a really nice table. It's come along really nicely, and it looks great. And I guess you'll let me know how it went. So you played Jacob, not Jacob on the show, Jacob Ridley, another local from down in the Mornington Peninsula, for round 1. And it was cryogenics, right?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I should know this. I'm the TO, but I think we're both tired.
I had completely forgotten to think about which mission it was, but yeah. So yeah, he was playing ALF OSS.
Oh yeah, cool.
I think he had a 5-man Dakini core. He had a Mark IV post-human
HRL.
Yeah, and then various support units. There was a Davines in there too, I think. Yeah, 5-man Dakini core with a sniper rifle.
Yeah,
and then a few other things.
Great thing about OSS armies is they kind of write themselves, don't they? They use a Dakini core plus proxies and remotes, and then that's kind of the army, right?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
All right, so we'll do what we did on the last, on the previous spotlight. There, we'll just talk about the opponent's army list, like you've just done, the table. Feel free to mention anything that was good or bad about the table that you played on, just because it's good feedback for our table designers.
I'm not one to judge a table, unlike you, Kev. So
I knew that was gonna make its way in there.
I'm just gonna leave that one, but anyway, so I sort of play it as it is and say, well, this is what I've got in front of me, so this is what I have to deal with. So I had second turn, so I believe. Or did I have first turn? Jeez, that's hard. And I remember the side I deployed on was actually a lot harder to deploy on than I thought it was going to be. So I can't remember if I picked sides or not. Now, no, I definitely went second. So I must have picked sides, and I messed it up with this one because I thought. So you've got the blue building in the middle. I was going to use that to sort of get coverage, and then get across because one of the objectives was up on that building, sort of on the left-hand side,
on the
helipad.
Yep.
And then there was one across the bridge, and just beneath that, and on the other side, they were both on ground level. So I was going to push the Tequil link up on the left-hand flank, and then use the main link to get those two on top of the buildings and sort of control that area. But when I actually then went to go deploy, I couldn't actually get them where I wanted to that blue building is actually past the deployment line, so I couldn't put things along there. I ended up putting the Nakul on that Oriental style slope building top, and the sniper was actually on top of the truck, the K1 sniper, looking down that fire lane at the other objective. So I had range and I had good fire lanes down there. So the Keltors were sort of around behind the truck. The Nakul was on top of that other building. They put the diplomatic delegate on top of the blue building, and then there's sort of that building on the bottom right is where I ended up putting that main link with the Sukiel K1. And then the Tequil was sort of behind those trash cans. So I ended up, it was a bit on the back foot from deployment. He had the Bikini link on the building on the back left. He had the Mark IV post-human on the bridge on the back right there. So
the back right of the middle. Yep.
Yeah, that sort of multicolored bridge there.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually made it really hard to move because I didn't realize this during deployment, but you could see under that helipad. So because what the plan was to drop the link up and jump them across the building and across, and his sniper had full line of sight to that building as well. So it actually made it really hard. So because I couldn't use the McCall to throw smoke because no line of sight because you couldn't see anything. So that's where I had to use that bomb. Really good that I use that sort of stuff. And then, so I ended up using the McCall. I used the McCall to drop smoke directly on top of them, and then I used the Sackrolls bomb to then smoke across on the other side, and then that's how I got the jump across. And then once I got across, it was very easy to smoke with the McCall.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. Yeah, yes. Like for those obviously not watching on the stream, I can see there's a building and then there's a gap and then there's a helipad and in order to access the middle of the table, you needed to jump that gap, but you couldn't do it without having obviously something in the
sniper and a heavy rocket launcher just coming down on me, getting AROs while I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that Sukiel, Sacral bomb really. Like that's it. If I hadn't had that entire plan would have gone nowhere.
It's still risky though, right? Because the bomb is one use only, and it's still a whip check. Is that right?
It's still a whip check. Yeah, it's still a risk.
Yeah. Okay. One use only, whip 13. So yeah, we've all been there before, but it paid off. So.
But like I said, I misread the table, and I had to then have a bit of luck to sort of bring that back. Made the way, then Link then made the way across. He got a little bit of a surprise when a K1 combi tore through the post-human Mark IV. Like, he's like, oh, it normally takes 5 or 6 orders and you got it in one. And I'm like, well, burst 4 K1 combi at good range. Yeah. It was never going to.
Turns that armor 8 in cover into armor 3, and that's a lot easier to deal with than a lot of things. I mean, that's probably better odds than even an HMG is.
Yeah,
no, it definitely is. Yeah, you're essentially damage 18 at that point, or is that am I doing math right? Yeah, I think so.
So using smoke and that, getting up there. So I'd put a smoke on left, so the sniper couldn't see me, but then coming out and edging the other way. So all that kind of stuff. On the other side, we had Sniper Wars. He went down in he had first turn, and he went down a lot. To the Nakul, and I can't remember if he went. No, he was fighting Nakul, and just
what was he fighting?
He lost a lot. He lost a lot of the firefights, and then was using his post-human engineer to get it back up. So he used most of his command tokens and a lot of orders in that Nakul, sniper war.
Was that also the Dakini sniper versus the Nakul sniper?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Mimetism, cover, all the cool things, and then when he finally does get through, I'm armor 12 with the mate and all the rest of it. So it's, I don't know why I'm going to give away a big Tohaa secret here, or actually a big sniper secret. Coordinated orders are the way to kill a sniper. You chuck coordinated orders at me versus either of the snipers I've got, and they just go down. They become paper. When I can only face-to-face against one, and suddenly, you've got 3 units, even if they're just a single combi shot, they're completely unopposed, and they're going to rip through me. When you're shooting 3 and you need 9s,
Yeah, it's tough when you have an army that's basically all fire teams, because then you have to then consider breaking them in order to get like to get more than one shot off. But
But
it's
you can use a
absolutely,
lot of
yeah.
your support units and even the flash bots and that kind of stuff, because a flash bot getting through is then going to stop me being effective anyway.
A flashbot will still pop a mate, it just doesn't do anything as well, right?
Yeah, but it'll pop the mate, and then if you stun me, I'm not shooting back and on all
Yeah.
the rest of it. So
Yeah.
it becomes a very different proposition. Whereas instead, he sunk 6, 7 orders and 3 command tokens and got nowhere. So I think that hurt him a lot because he then couldn't move up and position the board. Turn 2, like I said, that we already pretty much did the entire game on the right flank. So on the left flank, I moved up and sort of started taking that little courtyard area. He moved up and came through as well, and I think he realized he was running out of orders and needed to get across the table to get to the objectives, and sort of just pushed and overextended himself knowingly just to try and get there. I think we ended up with 2 objectives. So he pushed up, overextended. I then pushed back, and we had a bit of a war on the other side on the other objective that's behind that green building.
Did you find any HVTs, and where did they pop out?
Yeah, so the HVTs were, the first one was on top of that building, the first one I got to. The other one was on his side in the opposite corner.
Okay.
So I ended up with 2 objectives. He ended up with 2. I got the Master Breacher one most turns.
Who was your Master Breacher in this game?
That's a good question. Pretty sure it was the Sakharov.
The paramedic?
Yeah, the paramedic. Just because I knew he's usually not going to take a lot of heat and he's going to push up.
Okay.
Like
yeah,
he's
that
not
makes
going
sense.
to have a lot. Yeah, and then just making sure you've got him there to control those areas. We ended up having a bit of a weird fight, backwards and forwards. I'd smoke a lot, dodge a lot, making him just spend a lot of orders and not get anywhere. I ended up getting the Tequel in up underneath. So we ended up on the other side of that green building, and I was right up against his building. And then I started using endgame on a lot of his living units instead of the structure one. I think we called it at the top of my turn 3 because, we'd realized I'd won and we didn't really need to finish the turn. But my plan was then to walk along the backside of that bus, and he had a whole heap of units, his lieutenant and things like that, on top of that building near the orange bridge behind the bus.
Yeah, behind the bus.
And it was
middle,
just going to wipe them all out with endgame.
What was his lieutenant? I guess the Shukra or something?
Yeah, the Shukra.
Yeah, okay.
So, but at the... yeah, but we realized by the top of turn 3 I had it, so...
All right. So what was the end score there?
I have absolutely no idea. I can't remember now. I don't think I got a 10, but I could have. I really don't. You're the one with all the records, Kev.
I know, but I can't be bothered looking through.
It was a major, and there was a group chat. I was talking to all the Rocky people, and I was looking back through that before. And do you think I could find it? But
yeah, you're right.
I know
as a TO, I should have all this information up, but I'm also dealing with one very small laptop screen and a fear of moving too many windows around.
I just like putting you under the bus, to be honest.
That's all right.
Let me see if
I
I
deserve
can find it. Maybe it was the Gladstone chat.
That's okay. We know it was we know it was a major.
Yeah, it was a major. Just I managed to get control of the table, and I got enough. I got him to spend enough orders that that didn't really get him anywhere. Was the long short.
So lesson learned in that one: don't spend six orders and trying to shoot in a cool when you can spend 1 and a command token potentially. If the thing is though, again, going up against Tohaa, you kind of need to know about it. It's kind of like, harks back to the day of the hard ARO pieces that you just had to kind of build a list with in mind to say, if I come up against this hard ARO piece, I need to deploy 2 or 3 units in a position to see it so I can coordinate orders, shoot them.
I think anything that's got, I say light armor, but the first shot is obviously not with the mate, but anything that's like the tactic probably wouldn't work so much against like a Mark IV post-human, but against most snipers that are 1 wound, armor 3 or less, the coordinated order with even combi rifle troops is going to take them down. Like, it's how you deal with any of those, even like a HMG, someone that's, that's the ARO piece that's standing up in the link. You really need those. I think the coordinated order, even with basic infantry, it achieves so much.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on to the next round. So, round 2. Good. This should come up on the screen. Yay. All right. So, round 2 was. God, I can't remember. Capture and Protect, was it?
Yes.
Capture and Protect.
I Tohaa my way to victory hard.
Oh yeah, no, this was a game against fellow host on the show, Nick, with his Rama.
Yeah, so this one is pretty interesting. I turtled up on my side. So the side that we've got looking at, it was the side he had, and I was on the opposite side. We sort of both sides had these really interesting, these 2 rectangular buildings forming sort of a cross. So on both sides, and I just put my Tequil and diplomatic delegates, so all the ferroware, just to protect the objectives. So if anyone was going to get in there, you were going to take, end game hits and eraser hits. So you were likely to become isolated and then get death by farts. So it's really crazy to try and break into that. And then various support units around for it. The sniper were on the buildings. They had pretty good coverage of most of the table. And I put this game. This was epitome of my tactics for the entire weekend of play the table, play the mission, and just make it hard for everybody else to then do anything back. I got the grief right next to the objective, which is in front of the orange building at the front there. First turn, I just grabbed it, and I got first turn in this game. I just grabbed it and rang. He had I forget the name of the unit, but it's the
bot.
Yeah, the hidden box with the decoy.
Yeah.
And I ran out, and he shotgunned me.
Chain rifle.
Chain rifle. And I dodged. And then he had one further attempt to get me, and I got the dodge off. And with that 2 dodges, I was away.
Yeah, we discussed this on the episode. I feel he should have revealed and shot you with the viral rifle rather than the
100%.
chain rifle. Yeah,
100%. It's because that dodge, I needed an 11 or a 12. It was, a bit better than a 50-50, and just got it. Other key things with this, and then I ran it all the way back. He had targeted me with his hackers. He ended up then killing the grief with a missile, but then because it was back in my base and I had it well secured in the back, I was able to secure it again. He did a suicide run and killed it again, so I actually missed out on the points for holding the objective at the end of each turn, because he managed to get a couple of suicide runs on my flag holders, which was a bit depressing. But I managed to get the Gao Tawas in behind that green building and down his back flank, and picked most of his stuff apart with that. So
what was because I think we went through it in the show. This was he was running the missile launcher Zayden core, the Sunduk bot. There was a Nahab killer hacker. The usual.
There was a fire on that green building.
The usual assortment of Fanus flash pulse bots and I think and then I think he had one of the parachuting.
He had Carmen and Batard as well.
Oh yeah. In our discussion, he sort of said that he thought he had a pretty good way of beating you, but then of course you went first, took the beacon and ran away, and then he sort of played catch up for the rest of the.
Yeah, I believe his plan was to run structure units at me and then hopefully get me within hacking range and then target me and rain missiles down. Zach had run that against me up in Rockhampton repeatedly. He's been running, so I knew how to deal with it and how to avoid what was going on. Unfortunately for him, he had a plan, but I'd faced that many times and knew exactly what was coming.
How would you have dealt with that? I guess you had 2 snipers in Overwatch, right? So that makes it pretty difficult for a flash pulse bot to get up.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do it if they move. I mean, flash pulse bots with their move 12 is really quick. You only will usually get 1, maybe 2 shots if it's bad terrain for them. So, I mean, he could have got in there. But as I told him, the best tactic I've found with dealing with missile bots is, especially if he gets it on a lot of the Tohaa stuff with 2 wounds, and even better if it's the stuff with a symbiote mate, is even though, okay, they've got the missile, they're targeted on you, and then they shoot the first missile, most people dodge, do a reset. Your chances of it's not face-to-face, it's a straight normal roll.
Well, minus 3.
Yeah, -3. But you're not dealing with face-to-face, so it doesn't matter what your opponent rolls with all of their pluses. I think their target's 18. They can get anything and make it really hard. But if you reset, there's no more missiles coming at you.
Yeah. At worst, for something with symbiomates, you're losing 1 wound unless you get a lucky crit. Because of that total immunity. It definitely is worth just resetting.
So you just take the missile. The worst that's going to happen is you dodge. You roll the same thing and you fail. You dodge because they've rolled better than you. In which case, they're just going to shoot another missile at you, and you have to risk it again. Or you do the reset, and there's no more missiles coming. You're either dead or there's no more missiles coming.
Yeah. Did you any comments on this table particularly? Did it sort of play okay?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, standard Infinity table. I like the sort of stacking on the side. I was thinking if we were going to push ahead the 5-man link, we might get to dance a little bit over that on the side, but it wasn't to be. Very good standard. I mean, it's designed, I think, really for standoff. Both sides have buildings fully in their deployment zones. It's going to let you get Overwatch. Both sides have got towers. There's a lot of line of sight blocking in the middle, so it allows that. There's a good fun. Like there's 3 distinct funnels. Left, right, and in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to cover those and then see what happens.
Okay, and that was obviously another major for you.
Yeah.
All right. Move on to round 3 and the final round for day 1, and this was. God, I'm so bad at this. Frontline.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, because it was frontline. All right, so this was on the table that eventually took out best table over the weekend. So this is done by one of the locals, Aaron.
Clocks and bits lit up all over the place. It was pretty crazy table.
Yeah. No, this was a fun table. It's really nicely painted. It's all 3D printed stuff from, I think, Saucerman Studios. And yeah, it was a joy to set up on the Friday night. Okay, so this game was against Ryan.
Yeah, now Ryan was a really great opponent. I was losing this pretty badly until I again pulled a Tohaa and stole victory. So we'll go through. Like, this is a very good running theme, I think, for the next 3 games. Up until the point, you're 2 games in undefeated with 2 majors. I mean, at this point, the people you're playing against are top tier people.
Yeah,
so
life starts getting hard at this point.
Yeah, so I was being beaten thoroughly until I 100% stole the game by having last turn. So again, that whole, I like to be going second. I like to have the last word, and I really did steal this game from him.
Yeah, so Ryan was running White Banner, and I'll be remiss if I don't let everyone know, because I'm a horrible human being, that Ryan also took out Best Painted on the weekend, which we forgot to mention on the last episode. Really lovely painted. Sorry, not White Banner. He's running Vanilla Yu Jing, and he even had a display board, which was very unique and great to see. So what was Ryan running for this game?
So you know how I said I don't know Yu Jing very well? I'll give you the Clef Notes. There was a Blue Wolf. There was a Hacktow with, I think it had a HMG.
Yep.
There was Kit Cockram, I think.
Yeah, the engineer.
Yep. Then a Smattering. Oh, there was you know how they've got that new unique bot? Remote. I forget it.
What? Not the Sujan.
No, not the Sujan. I know that. No, there was no Susans.
No Susans. I mean, if he's got Blue Wolf and the Hacktow, I'd be surprised to have that as well.
It's got a lot of sensors.
The
It's that weird. The model looks really a bit strange.
long
Yeah, I think that's it. I'd have
It's
to look
the
it up.
camel one with the Panzerfaust and stuff.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it was an
So he had that
S3 camel marker. Yeah.
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 So I used the grief to had him on top of the building there. Got the classifieds, with the
Which building was it? Oh, I'm sorry. Which side
so
did you take? Or
I'll go back a step. So I was on the far side that we were looking at. I had my snipers. So the K1 sniper was in that white building, looking through that gate and
Oh,
down
yeah.
further. But line of sights were really blocked by the middle. Like this table, you couldn't really. The whole middle was really hard to see past. My Nakul was in that blue building in the back corner, so I kind of had most things over behind that blue building. There were 2 links and most of group 2 over there. The snipers were in that white building. I had the diplomatic delegate behind that barricade with the truck. The grief operator was on that building with half a car. But
where about?
So in the middle on the left, where we're looking at, there's a blue banner. There's half a car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it was on top of there, just so I could complete the objective classified and just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But most stuff and all the links was on the far side behind that blue building.
Behind the blue building, right? So because you just said something interesting there. You said that that side of the table was pretty well blocked up, like a lot of
the whole middle, all those buildings. You've got a crate. That large building, like it was all 3D printed and quite strange, and it's not all square on. Essentially divided the table in half, and you had to walk up through that to be able to then access the other side.
I see what you mean. Yeah, if for those of course the audio only subscribers, yeah, looking at the side to say if you split it down the middle, from each left flank and right flank, you got the left flank that looks a fairly typical infinity table, blocky buildings, buildings in deployment zones, some places to put up snipers and AROs. But on the right hand side, I see what you mean. There's buildings in each deployment zone, but in the middle is just kind of like a junkyard of like various blocks and buildings, completely cut up. Basically, nothing can see until you get past the halfway point.
That's it. So I really couldn't hurt him with my long range stuff, and he couldn't really shoot back at me either. So you had to move up through the middle. Now he had first turn. I pretty much just tried to obfuscate as much as I could, drop smoke when he was going to come. I actually put and this actually comes into what won me the game. Because I thought that the middle was very blocked up, he was going to have to get across halfway, and I wouldn't be able to slow him down much. I put one of the bombs on the K1 sniper, thinking that if he gets in there and I get in a bad way, I can smoke and keep it alive and then try and retaliate with something in the next turn. Mm-hmm. Which is not normally something I would do, but I knew because of this table, it was going to be a bit weird as things came across. So it had a bomb and a mate on it. The other bomb was on the Sakharov. The other mate was on the Nakul. So he pushed Blue Wolf up through that a sort of triangular reactor piece. It was glowing red during the game.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Was then just slicing the pie, picking units, trying to shoot this. I would drop smoke wherever I could to just try and give him a bad time. He used a lot of his turn for positioning. He also had a hack towel that he brought up. He originally tried to fight through there's in the middle there a big sort of arch at the sniper, and I just dropped prone. I just wasn't going to fight that fight. Tohaa don't fight very well against mimetism, so no. I'm just not going to play this game. I'll make you come up closer, and then we'll see what I can do with some smoke and some calls. But he's got his Blue Wolf up. He was just picking at me. He got the Nakul down, but not fully dead, which comes back into the game later in turn 2 and 3. And just generally harassing me. One of those turns where he takes, where they get good positioning on the board because there's poor coverage across the table, and picked me a little bit to just make my turn difficult. My turn 2 was ridiculously difficult. It seemed to go. So yeah, turn 1 I just used to move up a little bit. There's a crate on the top right-hand side of that table that had one of the other passageways through. We went up there. My snipers had put some wounds on him. Like I'd put a wound on the hack tower. I'd put a wound or two on the blue wolf. I think I put one wound on with arrows in the first turn, and then I managed to put one wound on it with the K1 combi as I moved up. Now, he had done some damage and killed some units. I think it was the McCall from the K1 unit. So I had to use my spare McCall and reform the links, and I reformed it to be the K1 combi, the Tequil, and a McCall to push up. And that's then what I pushed up that way. And it was, various Tohaa, smoke, move, reposition, shoot, all that kind of stuff. But the one key one that went pear-shaped was I sacrificed the K1 Sukiel to get a full in the open, full burst shot at the blue wolf. It was on one wound, one structure left. I had 4 shots at close range. I was under 8. I hit with all 4, or I hit with 3 and got a crit. So he had 4 saves, and he made all of them. A blue wolf in the open versus a K1. And I was like, what? And because I jumped out, the reason I got all of them in is I'd done it in the open, like I'd done it suicidal, and he flamethrowed me. So I died, and he lived completely through it. And I was just like, what just happened? I think in that process, the other memorable thing, like the plan was I kill the blue wolf, and then the Tequil just moves up a inch closer and takes the hack tower out unopposed. Like I was just going to fart on it, and it was just going to die. That did not happen. But I managed to get 2 wounds on Kit, I think, in the process of where he was, and he managed to dodge it out. And this actually comes in really important for turn 3. He'd moved it over towards the other side where you could see it through the arch. So anyway, he completely kicks my ass there. Come his turn, he cleans up my Tequil because my positioning's terrible, pushes into that flank again. I smoke where I can. I, just sort of obfuscate, try and figure out what the hell am I going to do here to try and survive this. My turn 2, I take the leftovers because I'd sort of swapped the links around. I have enough to form one link. I put the paramedic, the hacker, and I think I had one call left. Yeah, because the other one had died. I can't remember what the third unit that was left behind there was. Yeah. But anyway, the paramedic and those and the hacker and the other, I think it was McCall still, came around the back behind that blue building. I managed to get paramedic to the Nakul and got it back up, and then pushed the hacker and the paramedic up sort of between the arch and the other way. And what I was hoping to then do, because I had a classified to hack, to spotlight or forward observe one of his units. So I was going to try and get secure a little bit. I had both of my baggage bots still alive, and they pushed up far on the right flank, just up behind those buildings. So I was at least had my side of the table. He had just taken out my grief, I think, in turn 2 as well. So it wasn't looking very good. His turn 3, he was, again, a lot more picking. That was a really good thing, and I just would dodge, go out of line of sight, make him have to try and get another reposition, try and use the sniper, then, just make his life terrible while he slowly pulled me apart, piece by piece, and I couldn't really fight back. He positioned himself for the end of turn 3. He had the middle 100% secured. He didn't have enough to push up and take my side, so he wasn't going to get the far one. And I, at that point, sort of assessed the table, said, I just want 5 to have a look at this. And I realized he hadn't secured his middle very well. One other thing that happened in turn 2, I brought the Galtalis on. It went versus a monk, and it went badly, and I got annihilated. So again,
I was about to ask, did the Galtarsos come down and save the day?
no,
But no, he doesn't.
no, completely failed. Um, but I noticed he hadn't left a lot in his middle if I took out Kip or
So
Kip.
in the middle, do you remember what he had?
He had
What he
the
had
blue
left?
he had buff. He had a monk on top of that building where my grief had started. Like there was no way I was threatening that middle. Like it's just there was no way I was taking that back from him. I don't think I had enough points on the table that he had. But his far zone he hadn't really secured very well.
Oh, his closest zone.
His closest zone, he'd secured it, but it was like a flash boss bot and maybe a basic line infantry. It wouldn't been more than 20 points.
Right.
And my sniper link, Harris, was still fully intact. And I'd lost my lieutenant, and the chain of command had switched over there a couple of turns ago. So I had a lieutenant order there as well. And I just bolted straight down the middle under the arch because he hadn't secured that way at all. So I had a completely unopposed run straight down the middle under the arch. I had one firefight. I think there was something in front of that building with the blue roof. We had one firefight, and then I basically legged it, and I got 2 shots on Kip to finish him off. And if I did, that easily secured because Kip was down to 1 wound left, like he was in no wounding cap or something like that.
Yeah, he's 2 wounds. Yeah,
he's 2 wounds. So he only had 1 left. So if I took him out and had enough in that spot, I easily had it, and I managed to pull it off.
What ended up putting down Kit in the end?
I think just a Keltor with a shotgun.
Yeah, right. So you came across that closest flank or down through the middle essentially. So how did you get past
Down
the
through the
blue
middle
wolf and stuff?
because well, they were all the way on the right hand side.
Oh, they were in that junkyard area.
The terrain was so heavy. I had a clear opening where I could just, and I think I still had quite a few orders, like 6 or 7. I think it was 5 in the lieutenant.
Yeah,
because I had the full link and a baggage bot and one other thing, and that was enough to then just move. And because they were unopposed, I managed to push all the way into his 3rd quadrant because he'd pushed all his big stuff into the middle.
Yeah.
And I managed to push into that 3rd quadrant and secure it. And I completed both my classifieds. I had my quadrant because of the baggage bots, and then I managed to get his closest, which getting me the most points, and that's what got me the game in the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it's 3 for your closest, 2 for the middle, and 1 for the 2. You know what I mean? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So by holding his 1 and your 1, that puts you on 4 versus his 2. And then did he? And there's 4 classifieds as well. So you got 2 classifieds, and Ryan got.
I think I got like 3, and he maybe got 2. I can't remember now.
Yeah. Basically, I
because
find if in frontline, if you. Sorry, what was that?
Because I'd sacrificed the grief to get his with the D charges.
Oh yeah.
And then managed to get 2 of the others, and that's what did it for me.
Yeah, I find if you lose your closest zone to the enemy, that's like a 4-point swing away from you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bad times. Oh,
well. I managed to push that link. I had enough orders with the link to then just push it that last turn.
Sounds like a tough game though, that
I completely stole it from him, and this is a running theme probably for the next 2 games. There was a small opening left, and it's the wounded animal is sitting there, and there's one small opening, and I took it, and they came through.
Okay, all right. So at the end of day 1, probably at the top of the ladder or very close to.
I was 3 mages. I think there was a couple other people in the same spot.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk briefly just about sort of the day, the first day, how you felt going into the evening. What did you get up to? What did you think of the venue and everything else like that?
The Bowls Club was amazing. I love a good Bowls Club, and their beer selection was amazing. So that's great. You guys did amazing with the venue. Dinner was great. The reason I do these things is the social. But it was a bit packed and a bit crowded. Getting around and getting a seat was difficult, and trying to get around to talk to everybody. So good conversations with those around, but you never get to catch up with everyone you want to. So sorry to everyone I didn't get to say hi to. but yeah, I mean, as for how I was feeling, like, you go away to these competitions to be competitive, so it's great to be in a competitive position. It's not like, oh, I lost first game, so now it's gonna, I get to, it's a different feeling. But when you're like, hey, I'm undefeated at the end of day one, like, oh wow, okay, I better, there's a bit of pressure and a bit of, can I say, like, you obviously go away to be competitive, and I'm doing it. I'm not here now just to roll dice and laugh. It's like, okay, I'm in with a shot here.
Yeah, no, and you certainly were. Definitely one of the favorites, probably going into, or at least one of my favorites going into it. Given that you're not from Melbourne, so a lot of the guys probably have never faced against you before. So, and also having Tohaa there is is an advantage. Some people might say, but yeah, but you didn't stick around too late on that night, I believe, or
So a little bit of personal background. I had decided to give up caffeine that Thursday.
bad choice.
So I had someone who has a massive caffeine addiction. Anyone who's gone through caffeine withdrawal will know you get a massive migraine, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I was heavily medicating myself for that and trying to keep up as much water as possible. And everyone was loud and obnoxious, like, when they are. And I'm like, so we stayed, I think. And my meal came out ultra late. So I think I ended up boxing it up and eating it for breakfast as well. So
Oh, that's a bit of a
I
shame.
think,
Yeah, it was quite busy in
I think,
the pub.
I think we had some starters. I ate like a crap load of chicken wings. And then the
Oh
meal.
yeah, I think we were sharing chicken wings at one point. I think they
Yeah,
I
so I
asked for
ended up having
some.
a bunch of those. And I
Yeah,
ended up.
what was that?
Yeah, I ended up having my own plate of those that did make it out to the table. But yeah, my pasta didn't come out, so I ended up just getting it boxed, and that was breakfast. But yeah, so caffeine withdrawal headaches, and someone who doesn't drink, and then no food, and hey, I want to be rested for tomorrow. Yeah, I think it was about 9:30 when we walked back to the motel.
Yeah, and you were sort of with us as well at the staying at the Quest as well. So
Yeah,
just across the
I was
road.
staying with Zach at Quest. Yeah.
Yeah, so nice and close to stumble home. Actually, now you've just sparked a memory from the wings at the thing, because I remember I ordered some buffalo wings and I said, "Oh, spicy sauce," and they came out the most bland, mild sauce I've ever had. And I think I went up to the bar and asked for a bottle of Tabasco sauce, walked back over to my table
Well,
and just doused them in Tabasco.
that's very interesting you bring that up, Kev, because in my spare time, I moonlight as a creator of hot sauce.
Oh,
So
did
I
you?
have my own fermented hot sauce that I shall send to you now that I know that you're a connoisseur.
Oh well, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I'm away at the moment with work, but at home right now there's a jar of about a kilo of fermenting chilies in my cupboard. So I'm gonna get back and hopefully they'll
Mm,
be
no, so I've got a batch I preserved probably mid last year that's quite good. The heat's probably died down a little bit from when they first came out, but there's two types of habaneros, some smoky stuff in there, and some Carolina Reapers. So we'll
Oh
see how you
yeah, no,
go.
absolutely. If you can send down a package, I'm always keen to try hot sauces for sure.
There you go, man.
Good stuff.
On the way.
All right, so yeah, in bed fairly early on the Saturday, and we'll get stuck into day two. So that
Mm.
was oh.
So with the dinner too, I'd done a bit of scoping on who the opponent was to try and figure out a little bit on what the tactics were.
Ah, yeah.
You got to, send your reconnaissance out and get a bit of intel. So I knew I was against. That's all right, man. I'm not above admitting. I scoped out what was going on. I didn't know exactly what was coming at me, but I knew there was going to be some Yelgats and Syriats and all the rest of it in a link and smoke and all of the lovely things. So I was like, there is no way my force has the capability of going toe to toe with that.
So
So I
yeah,
was sitting there like,
you were up. We posted the listings after the end of day one, and you were up
mm,
against Jordan, who was running Morats in
yeah,
supplies.
that's right. So I pretty much went, I need to toe hard the hell out of this. I am going to smoke. I am going to steal objectives, and I am going to run away like a dirty toe hard.
All right. Let's see. Let's see how that. Well,
So
I
that was
mean, we
my
know how it
table
went, but let's see how it went. All right. Yeah. Carry. Yeah. Let's know how the game went.
we got the table there.
Oh yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. The table. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me to do my job.
Sorry, everyone. That pause was me waiting for Kevin to change the picture.
Oh God, like I've quit drinking this month, and I feel like I'm not on point here. All right, here we go. This is the table. This is I think one of the Henry brothers tables, either Luke or Peter. We talked about it in the last episode. It's done the rounds at CanCon several times, so you may have seen this one before.
Yeah. So I had the far side. He won the role, giving me, set up first, and he took first turn. So again, putting me where I want to be. I want to be in that second turn. So I knew I had to slow him enough that he couldn't steal the objectives, so that I had the opportunity to get them. So I put my most of my the primary link team with the Tequel and the diplomatic delegate was sitting in that grey building. So there's sort of building one left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were in that building on the left in the picture. I had the sniper in the building on the right, just trying to cover a little bit. All I wanted to do was slow him down enough that he'd spend orders and come at me, and I gave him a few targets to shoot at. Like I put the hacker and the Nakul on the building in the back right, so that I knew it would have line of sight through those windows in that black building, hoping he would spend some orders on the Nakul and then not have enough left to then push over the table and steal the objectives before me. The Grief went behind that sloped building on the right-hand side.
Oh
He
yeah.
was stuck in around the back there because there was an objective in that white and orange building. Again, I wanted to be able to just, if I could, use the Grief to get the objective, that'd be great. But he was there really to just try and slow down and get him to spend a few orders.
And just a quick note on this table, because I don't know how it was played, but obviously all the buildings here don't have roofs.
That's
So
right.
how was that? How did you play the internals of the
We
buildings?
played pretty much everything as it was. I think if it was like a grill, we didn't allow line of sight, but if it was an open window, it was open and you could see. So he was able to see straight through those buildings. It made it fairly open.
And how did you get into and out of a building? Were there staircases, or did you
there's
teleport?
staircases and doors.
Okay.
There was internal staircases that we used, like there were doors at the back of both of those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, as you can see, that building where I had the Tequel and the link, there were stairs leading up.
Yep.
So yeah, just to try and and then there was like an internal staircase that we used to then as an exit to the back door.
Okay.
One other thing, really interesting note, is there's a vehicle, like a police car, sort of on my table that blocked S2 line of sight. That comes in pretty important with the movements around the table, especially me having to smoke and move around.
Right.
A bit later on. So that's something of interesting to note. So I also another thing that was important is this was one mission where I put the McCall outside the link and just let it use its impetuous to get up the table to get to that objective. And yeah, that was on that left-hand side. So he had first turn. As I predicted, he smoked and got into sniper wars with me. Now it was really interesting. The very first shot he took, we took it, worked it all out, and I took his Yalgat sniper down with the Nakul. Boom, first shot.
What did he shoot through smoke as well?
Yeah, he shot through smoke. And then we realized before he went on to the next order, we'd actually gotten the math wrong. Like we'd gone the next 6 cents shooting back through. The Nakul with MSV1 we hadn't taken, so I should have, because I think I crit him or beat him. I can't remember, but my target should have been 3 higher.
Right. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Because of the MSV1 shooting through smoke, it's actually a -3, not a -6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We just screwed them up when we did it. So I said, look, if you want to take it back, you can do it. I obviously would like things to stay how they are. He eventually got to a TR. I think he went to Nick, and they went through it and said, I said, look, it's your choice at the end of the day on how you want to play this. We got it wrong. If you want to take it back, that's fine. If we want to do those things. And he did take that back. So the first shot we played a little bit of a, time lapse back in time, and that was fine.
I think I think I remember being involved in this decision. I think in the end it was decided that the order would have been considered burnt, but you could nothing happened essentially.
Yeah, so I was fine either way. I mean, at the end of the day, mistake happened and we hadn't moved on. Like I said, so a little bit of background. During my 40K days, I was incredibly ruthless across the table, and I was that guy that never got a full sports score ever.
Right.
So I very much don't like to get into these arguments. I think I got into way more sort of TO questions this tournament than I want, but there were little things and rule changes that different metas play differently. Like I think we got one with you where a Nakul dodging doesn't break. Like if a Sapper dodges, they don't break Sapper as long as they don't move. It's not a dodge skill; it's actual movement.
Yes, yeah, that was a bit of a curly one. I don't think I've ever come across that one before, but that's how we played it. Whether or not it's right,
yeah. I think with using Ferroware, like a hacker with white noise the white noise has to be fully within their hacking zone, right? So that's how everyone assumed, or what I think has happened in Melbourne is that everyone's assumed that Ferroware is the same, but there's nothing in the rules to say it is.
That's correct.
Very specific.
Sorry. Just to back up on that one quickly, because it is something that has come up before. Is white noise has to be placed fully inside 8 inches, but Ferroware does not. You can just place the center. Huh?
Yeah. The center has to be within your zone of control.
Yeah, it's more like throwing smoke, whereas obviously the smoke can propagate outside of 8, but as long as the center of it is within 8, whereas white noise isn't the same, which is an odd difference.
It's weird, and it's one of the few inconsistencies in the rules that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there was little things like that I think are just meta differences because they've got played one way and everyone's gotten used to playing them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the things that I think I felt really bad that a lot of those were sort of. I think there was 3 or 4 over the weekend. But it's top tables and people play things differently in different metas. So because of my history with 40K, I try very hard not to be that guy, and I usually will make everything like when a measurement is close and is it in or out? I will always default to my opponent. You choose, man. You tell me. Is now my default operandum because I just don't. There's no sense getting into those arguments of hey, it's in or out, or you dodged it, or you didn't. You bumped it. Like it's like I'm not here to. You're there to have fun. Like this is my leisure time. So I just default to them now. So same with this. I was like, well, it's your choice. You do what you want to do with this, and I'm happy to roll with it.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
So anyway, we did that little bit of time lapse. He then shot, I think it was 3 or 4 orders, and my Nakul was gone. He pushed up a little bit along the middle. He got the grief. He came up that way. I think that was with his second. Oh, we didn't even go through his list.
No, you sort of said it was like more at normal stuff, but you go through it anyway.
Well, again, this is where it comes down to. I don't know the new Morats very well. He had a couple of Harrises. He had a Gaki Link with their controller. He had a 5-man in the building with.
It was the Surya HRL, the Surya and the Yauga MSV2.
And there was the Yelgat MSV Sniper with +1 burst, so burst 4 inactive. And then I think just some filler. There was a number of the newer hackers. He had that new paramedic troop.
Yeah, the Dart. He would have. I think one of his Harrises was a Dartok, Kaitok, and something else. I think it was.
Yeah, I'm not 100%.
Jordan's in the chat, so he should probably let us know if he's kicking around.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, he's there.
Help
us, Obi-Wan.
So anyway, he moved up. He got the grief. He got the Nakul. Rindak.
Dartok, Rindak, Kaitok. That's right. Right. Yep. Very cool.
He moved up to sort of underneath that pergola area in the car. He got the hackers up a little bit, and so it sort of started taking enough positioning. He got the objective on the. I don't know if he got the objective that turn, the first turn or the second turn. It's probably second turn. But my first turn. So my first turn was I used the Tequel to drop out of line of sight smoke, completely moved up, grabbed that objective in the building, and then ran it back into the building.
Which
Nakul,
building?
That middle building. So
the middle, the big middle building. Yep.
Yeah. So the Tequel started there, got the objective, ran all the way back, and then I used the Nakul to grab the objective on the left and started running it back behind the building. And yeah, Jordan just jumped in and he got the objective on his first turn and ran it back into his lines. So I was like, well, there's no way I'm getting that back. In my turn, I've grabbed these two. I then I did a bit of a mistake at the end of my first turn. I had some orders spare after that, and I used them to run my hacker up behind that green building on the left. And I got a little too far forward because his HVT was behind that building, and both of my classifieds were like spotlight and hack the HVT. So the plan was then in turn 2, I was going to use that to then just complete my classifieds. But I got a little too far forward. I was hidden behind the building, but I was too close to it. He dropped a pitcher right next to the building, and I was just within 8, and he just shredded the brain of my hacker in his turn 2. So that screwed me up a little bit because made those objectives just about impossible, the classifieds to then try and do. I think he saw that he'd made a bit of a mistake, and by allowing me to get both objectives, and then decided to try and push up the table a little bit more. I can't remember how I slowed him down. I think I had, but he wasn't able. There was enough face-to-faces. My sniper had to go prone at one point, the K1, and I brought the paramedic drop trooper in on my side to reinforce my lines to help protect it. I can't remember if I did that first turn or second turn.
On what side did the drop trooper come in?
Along the back. I just dropped it straight down. I didn't bring it in the side because I just wanted to use it as 2 wounds. And yeah, he just popped in. He pushed his Gaki link up down the middle to try and kill things.
Yeah,
I think the baggage bots and things like. I think I used the baggage bots to try and flame them and things of that nature. But anyway, so that was his turn 2. My turn 3 was just. I tried to pick a few things. I wasted a lot of orders trying to get the Gakis and clear them out. I moved the sniper down to the back of the building on the right to get line of sight across the field so that when he made a push turn 3, I'd at least get some AROs. I just dug in more along the back, I think, and I brought the objective further around and behind those stairs.
Yeah, so just consolidating your position.
More. Yeah, exactly, and just making sure like that sniper's there for AROs. And then he came turn 3, and I had, again, this is where I talked about my weakness of I don't know all the lists completely in and out as well as I should. The Rindak is a structure, not wounds.
That's right.
So my defensive plan of farts and isolation was completely out the window. So he Rambo'd that into my back lines, and we did a lot of dodging and smoking. And we ended up, my flag carrier was down, but not dead. And he was we got into close combat. So he had, because he would run around and I would just drop a whole heap of smoke along the back lines with the Tequel. So he couldn't shoot me. He had to run up and try and hit me, and I would just dodge out of close combat and make him have to do it again. And we repeated that over and over just to keep away.
Yeah.
So just keep the smoke up and just keep him running away. But he ended up getting me. I think I went down, but it was in his last order. And then I managed to have a few other troops there. I managed to put in a cool, and I think so come my turn 3, it was really just about resecuring that objective, and then that was it. And I put the Nakul and the Sakura in combat with him, and then just with the burst and the Sakura, the Nakul, the McCall's close combat, just easily took it down and retook the objective.
Retook the objective, yeah, right.
And that's it. We called it in. I didn't get my classifieds, but I had, the 2 objectives, more than your opponent, and it was enough to get me the major.
Yeah. That's again another tight game. I know Jordan's saying that was probably the tightest game he had all weekend. So yeah, sounds like a good game.
As you were saying, he should have.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
He should have formed a Harrison. Oh yeah, just in the chat, he mentioned he should have formed a Harrison, run them up instead of just soloing the Rindak.
Oh, it was just a solo Rindak run, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess with more bodies, he maybe could have secured the.
Yeah, he would have also then had to deal with the isolation and all the rest of it.
Oh, I mean, I guess saying that though, they're veteran. They're all more.
Oh, there is 2. Yeah, not the isolation, just the farts. Yeah, but then I wouldn't have had. So, yeah, that's true. It would have been. He would have been in a better position.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, round 5, final round, decapitation, and this will be against James Higgins from WA, from Perth, one of the 2 WA guys that flew across to Melbourne for this event, and he was running Caledonia, which was super cool to see him doing so well. But maybe he might have had to take a big gulp of his beer when he realized that his final round was against Tohaa.
Yeah, pretty tight little Caledonia list. Couple of doggies, 2 links with the heavy infantry. What is it? Not
Greys?
Highlanders. The Greys.
Yeah.
So a 5-man with a grey and then a 3-man with a grey. He had McGregor the Hacker.
Usha, I'm assuming. McMurrow, a couple of dogs.
Yeah, McMurrow and 2 other dogs. He had Wallace.
I think, was this the list that he was talking about where he was actually trying to take a pure grey core?
That was his second. That was his other list.
Okay.
So that was his second list. This was I don't know which was the first or second, but yeah, it was McMurrow and 2 dogs, a 5-man with a grey and volunteers, and then a 3-man with a grey, and I forget what else was in it.
Yeah, it was like grey, Isabel, and probably maybe a Mortimer T2 or something, or maybe another grey.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Cool, and we're playing, and this table is the Hughes second table. It's a mixture of CB card terrain plus some I guess platforms from some manufacturer. I'm not sure which one it is. Tidy little table as well. Nice little layout. Quite dense as well, I think, by the looks of things.
So I had the far side for this table. He again won the role. He chose deployment and he chose to go first. Well, he went first, so giving me second turn. I think he won the role, chose initiative, gave me deployment. I took the other side for the better deployment, for the better sniper and Overwatch positions. He set up first on this side. I set up on the other side. I mean, it was a pretty standard list of a couple of links and some big doggies. The doggies don't really like viral. I was hoping to take advantage of that. With the grief and like the breaker pistols. So I just tried to have a lot of fun in this game. Obviously wanted, to do well. I mean, you're playing on the top table, but was sort of sitting there going, we'll just see what happens, because at the moment we're playing decap.
Yeah.
He had Wallace all the way. So, there's a set of stairs in a building on the back line there. He had Wallace all in behind there. He put his 5-man on the left-hand side, dogs sort of in the middle. And then the greys sort of positioned with good over coverage. I put my K1 Combi Link and Tequel on the right hand side. Tequel was in that building at the back, prone, obviously, for decap.
Yep.
I had the Delegate in the middle. I had the Nakul on the left hand side. The Grief was on the left hand side, in amongst those buildings around the side there.
Where did your HVTs go?
And it was ridiculously hard to place my HVTs. His were, mine were the building in the middle, just over the wall, because I couldn't quite put them back the other side, and the other one was behind that little barricade on the right hand side.
There's not too many places to put them on this table for a couple of reasons. Obviously, one of them being that it's a 16-inch deployment zone, and then the other being these platforms. I'm assuming they obviously don't count as ground level, which then removes a vast swathes of ground level that you're allowed to put them on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, I mistake. My Grief was on the right hand side, on the other side of that barricade.
Oh, yep, in the middle.
Yep. The solo Nakul, not Nakul, McCall was on the left hand side where I thought the Grief was. So I had a CC unit over there.
So you had another game now you've running the solo McCall. So I guess that's it's not something I often see.
Sort of counter the dogs. It was to counter the dogs a little bit. I had viral close combat weapons. My CC is really good. I've got CC -3. I thought a McCall versus a dog is that should go to me.
And actually, that when you mention it, it's not something I think about. But I mean, obviously, you've got spare models that you don't have to have in a link. But in this mission, you're obviously thinking about, like, I want to deploy far back to make it hard for my opponent, but I want to project some kind of speed bump. And a McCall is a perfect speed bump to put on the 16-inch line behind a building, waiting for something to come around the corner. Yep. No, I dig it. I dig that idea. It's because I guess it's one of the disadvantages of Tohaa, because you end up linking so many of your things. They all have to be in these tight little teams that can't be too far apart.
That's right.
So having two Chaksa and a McCall free floating allows them to kind of plug the gaps in your lines.
That's right.
Cool. Yeah, nice one.
So that was his plan on that side. So the clef notes from this game, we basically grind on each other. The McCall.
Sorry, just having an image of you and James grinding on each other in the Bowls Club.
We did that, and then we played the game. So no. So the Nakul went relatively cheap to the grey. I think only 2, maybe 3 orders. Way cheaper than I would have liked. The McCall that I wanted to get into close combat with a Wolf went down way too cheap. He had an SAS just near the objective on the left hand side. Yeah, near the HVT, and I tried to get at that. So basically, his first turn, it went okay. Like, it wasn't terrible for me, but it ruined a lot of things that I wanted to have fun with. So he didn't really do anything major to the other side. He sort of pushed up and repositioned. I managed to get, with deployment, he had one of the dogs not in the open, but I could have the sniper with line of sight to it. So I locked him down a little bit and stopped his fire lanes and stopped his movement a little bit. But he basically just pushed up and picked a little bit. I brought the paramedic down to try and get the McCall up. Failed and killed it. I then put the paramedic into combat with one of the dogs. Now it held it up, and he certainly didn't wipe me. But I hadn't forgotten total immunity. But because I'd assumed in my head, and I put in my head, I don't have to worry about total immunity because I've got viral close combat weapons. I then went, I've got explosive on the paramedic. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's got total immunity. This is going nowhere.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
But, I'd already put that plan into my head that I don't have to worry about total immunity. So I didn't when I put the backup plan in, it went a bit haywire. So we wasted a lot of orders over there on turn 1, and he sort of picked at me a little bit. I managed to get the diplomatic delegate, who was probably the MVP for this game. Well, was MVP until the last turn. um, moved up and just positioned well that anything running around was going to have to deal with her isolation with a razor. So that helped a little bit. He got my HVT. I think he got both my HVTs in his first turn. I managed to get one of his. Now, my first turn, I had to deal with his SAS trooper on the right. So then we sort of traded a lot on that left hand flank, and that's all that really sort of happened the rest of that game. He sort of defeated me and was managed to able to move up freely around. So that was sort of turn 1-2. Now he put his SAS on the right flank, one of them, and because of how he was positioned and with templates and all the rest of it, it was just really bad. Like there was, no matter what I did, he was going to get AROs against, normal rows against the other links, members of the links. So I was going to lose models to try and deal with it. So I ended up using the Tequil and shooting from the back. So I stood the Tequil up and just used the combi rifle.
So the Tequil was on the left. The Tequil was on the left flank on that building.
That little building with the logo on that white building on the back right hand corner.
Oh, on the back right hand corner. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah. So I ended up just using the combi rifle and pip away at it with that, because that stopped him getting AROs on the link team members. See, because if I activated the link, they would have gotten, his AROs would have been able to get normals against the others.
He had you pinned down with the SES, so you had to enlist your lieutenant to stand up and take probably bad range shots or not great shots.
Yeah, no, they were still probably bad, I think, but it managed to do the job, and I didn't lose anything in the process. So, and because I had the 2 lieutenant orders to spend anyway, I may as well use those and just see what we can come up with. But it meant I was standing up, and I didn't have the orders to get him back down.
Oh no!
To go prone. But I then managed to push the link up. I used the grief to try and take out. There was something in that little corridor on the right hand side, but it went completely pear shaped, and I lost the grief way too cheaply. Like it was like I moved up, he arrowed and killed me. I used the link to push up towards the middle to try and retake the middle room, and it just went badly. I think he didn't manage to kill anything, but he managed to get a lot of things unconscious. I think.
What were you fighting against?
Dogs. There was McMurray and a grey in there, and something that had a T2 rifle.
Oh yeah, probably maybe the grey T2 or the other one, yeah.
McMurray, but that was all I really got, and I lost the K1 combi and then McCall from that link, and there was only the paramedic who was left behind a building back. And so that was kind of the first 2 turns. Like I said, a lot of grinding on each other. And he sort of came up, managed to take the left flank in the middle. I couldn't really do it, but he then used his T2 rifle to take shots at the Tequil, who proceeded to dodge, go prone as quickly as it possibly could.
That's lucky.
I managed to live through that, and then I was down to about 7 or 8. So we're bottom of. So we go. So he's turn 3. He's managed. He hasn't killed No, it wasn't his turn 3. It was my turn 2. So that was turn 1 before. So my turn 2, my Tequil's prone. He's managed to take the left flank in the middle, and I'm pretty beaten up. I shift models all into one group, and I end up with about 6 or 7 orders and my 2 lieutenant orders. So it's really not gone too well.
Right.
I think I damaged myself in my turn than he did in his first turn. But I see an opening. He's only left 1 unit overwatching down that flank at the Tequil. And I'm going, all right, time to just put this into full toe hug. And if you have a look at that building he's got now nothing covering Wallace either. So everything's pushed up into the middle and down that other flank.
Yeah, so Wallace is in that little building at the back corner closest to us on the screen. Like nice and tucked away there. It's gonna take a fair
But
few.
he's left it relatively exposed.
Yeah.
Because most of his other forces moved around.
Yeah, he's got no support. It's
So
just Wallace by himself.
Yeah. So long story short of it, I put the Tequil into gear, drop smoke, run it completely down that flank. I kill the T2 rifle Grey. I kill Isabella, and I kill Wallace. And I end up in that bottom right-hand corner, not behind any cover, but up high between those two buildings on the raised area.
Yeah, okay. How did you kill those three models with that? With that?
With endgame.
Yeah,
Fucked.
okay. I was gonna assume endgame at this point. It's like fucking endgame.
So I fully Tohaa'd it. I was a terrible person. I saw, again, like I said for the other games, I saw an opening and I just went for it. I was losing. I was on the back foot. There was a small chance and I just went for it.
Remind me, is endgame burst 1 or burst 2?
Burst 2 inactive.
Fuck. Burst 2, what damage?
13 on willpower 14.
And double action or AP or anything like that?
AP.
AP. Yeah, right, okay. I think it's
all his stuff is unwound with no BTS.
Yeah, no BTS. Yeah, you just burst 2 on burst 1, and all they can do is reset. You're completely safe from any repercussions.
Yep. Retaliation at all.
Yeah, nah. Tohaa bullshit.
I 100% stole that game. So anyway, I managed to get there and I'm in the open. Now, this is where, and no one's brought it up, but I realized it. So after the tournament, I flew over to Perth to see my brother and then flew back to Queensland. On the flight back, I was going through everything and I realized my opponent made a massive mistake. And I don't know if he knows it, and I'm really sorry when he watches this, when he realizes it, if he hasn't already realized it. He played his last turn in Loss of Lieutenant.
Oh, no.
And in decap, he shouldn't have. I didn't pick up on it at the time. It wasn't until my flight home. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
Reinforced tactical link. Yeah, it's not firefight. This is decap. Yep.
That's right. So he played as though he was in Loss of Lieutenant. And he scrambled, did some orders, tried to get some models up with paramedic. They all died. He managed to get one unit across. So there's that building in the middle on the right. He managed to get up some stairs and some shots at the Tequil, and he took her down, but didn't kill her outright. She was unconscious.
Oh no, and we all know what Tequils have.
Tequils have regeneration.
Yeah, those fuckers.
And I got it, and we worked out. I had the game, so we just didn't play turn 3 of my turn 3. We just left it there.
Do you think then if had James not played and lost the lieutenant, would it have made much of a difference?
We did the math. If he'd managed to get the lieutenant, because we'd worked out if he'd actually managed to kill me, I think I was still 1 point up on him.
1 point up because you had more army points left?
Yes, I had more army. Yeah,
because he had you on HVTs and you're equal on.
He had me on HVTs.
Yeah.
We would have had equal lieutenants, but I had army points.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Only because that team used to take so many units out in that last turn.
Yeah, well, I mean that's almost 100 points that he's taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Isabel, Wallace, and the Grey. They're all like 25 to 35 points each. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
I think I was 20 ahead. So without the Tequil, if I'd lost the Tequil, I think I was still 20 ahead. But yeah, so Tohaa bullshit completely stole that last game.
Man, there you go. Well, that's 5 rounds. BCB, you came away with first place with, I think you're the only player with 25, with 25. I can't count. Yeah, 25 TP. With Ed in second. Ed was also undefeated, but I think he just got a minor victory in one of his games. Yeah. So yeah, close run thing, and I guess where is it? Where did I put my notes? Oh yeah, they're on my phone because I've only got one screen. So at the end of that, then, if you have any kind of, I guess, any thoughts on the weekend, how you think you played, any feedback for the event, or player, or the people you played. I guess this is your opportunity now to shout them out.
Yeah. As I said, you go away to these things. It's a competition, but at the end of the day, it's the people and the things. Like organizing the life-size cutouts and all of that kind of stuff.
That was amazing. Yeah, sorry, I didn't. I think I did shout you out in the last episode about that. But thanks so
That
much for that
was
idea.
actually the most stressful thing of the whole weekend, was making sure that they showed up. Like you're asking about what were your concerns for the weekend. My biggest concern of anything, was those cutouts actually arriving.
That was such a like a fucking saga, wasn't it? Because there was 3 cutouts, and then they only sent one to Nick on like
They only sent one.
the night before
Yeah.
the event. And
No,
then
like
other
the week,
two,
had to chase them up, and they only arrived 10 minutes before he packed. He'd packed the car and was waiting to leave to see if the shipment would show up, and they arrived 10 minutes before he had to leave. It was
yeah.
But anyway, they turned out great, and they were great. Thank you, shout out to Dion's wife for supplying the photo of Dion and keeping that a secret from him while we did all of that to him.
I did wonder how you got that one. Right, okay.
Yeah, no, I managed to track his wife down on Facebook and say, hey, your husband can't make it, but I want him to be there physically, and if he can't be there in spirit. So, and yeah, got that organized. So she stealthily took photos. Shout out to CB for taking part. It's the closest we're ever going to get to getting Carlos here. Can't wait to see Connie's reaction when we get his back to him. So for those that don't know, Connie's, we had cardboard cutouts of Carlos, Connie from CB, and from Dion from TSI. Connie collects badges from events. He runs the walk call program and all the events. So we got a cardboard cutout, life size of him, and we'll be shipping that back to Spain for him to have some memorabilia. Carlos is going to get pimped out around Australia. So if you're running an event and you want Carlos there, let it. The guys in Melbourne have the cutouts. He can do the rounds, and
man,
I think everyone just.
I should have organised a send up to Rocky this weekend. I forgot about that.
And Dion's just going to get pimped around anyone who wants to, and then we'll eventually, after it's had a go, Dion can make a play back to him, and he can, I don't know, have one of the strangest pieces of memorabilia I would have ever seen in someone's house, like walking in and seeing a size cutout of themselves there. Like, that's the most narcissistic thing to think of.
Once everyone's had a go. Yeah, no, that was great. That's that sort of stuff that really makes events like that, really makes them a fun community to be in. We talk about competitive games all the time, but like you said, we're all here for the community. So it was good times. Right. Well, anything else? Just checking if we had any more questions. Is there anything else you want to say, John?
Yes, big shout out to all the opponents, the organisers. I think I hugged everybody, picked you up, and carried you around. I didn't get drunk enough for anyone to get a piggyback ride, so my apologies for that. But I think I just need to shout out and thank Kev massively for letting me set up one of his tables without completely going ballistic and dying of a heart attack.
Mate, I was, I had to take a few deep breaths.
Everyone loved it. Way, I went to everybody to get feedback, and they said this is the best we've ever played on this table.
Well, that's great.
Just saying.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's good to let go sometimes and share and not be 100% in control, and delegate a little bit.
Oh, mate, you're cutting me deep. Yes, I know. I need to let go. I need to let go. That's I get it. It was funny that on the night that you were setting up the table, I even sent you a picture of how it should look, and I came round and it was just nothing at all like what
I believe I even took the major centerpiece for the table. I took it and put it back in the box.
You did, yeah, you did. And then, honestly, it definitely turned into a different type of table, and I do appreciate when people take a table and make it their own, and I think it worked well. I think from all accounts, but like you say, by all accounts, it was fine, and I was happy enough that I didn't have to take responsibility for it if anyone didn't like it, so it's fine. It's good. All right. Well, I don't think there's any more questions from our patrons tonight. Thank you so much, John, for coming on and retelling your games. I know it's been a few weeks now, so your memory is held up all right. And good luck this
Hope
weekend in Rocky
painful
with
memories.
hopefully no pain remains.
Hopefully, the memories I gave my opponents and the pain and suffering I put them through last as well, and that they know never to challenge me again.
Well, at least until the next BCB or CanCon, but I guess
Well,
you're
I've
not going
said
to be going to that one.
current plan is when you give a date, I'll travel. My thing. It's my hobby. It's the way I get games. So bring it on. I'll be there. And Sydney's got to pick up their game and host an event so I can come.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. If Sydney can get that organized, I'll be there.
Get 30 players, dudes. I'm there.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks so much for coming on, John. It was really great talking to you, man.
My pleasure.
And yeah, good luck this weekend at Bovine Tech 4.
Sure, there'll be many pictures, especially of the meat eating on the Saturday night.
Oh, yeah. All right, folks. Well, you've been listening to another exciting episode of Loss of Lieutenant. My name's Kevin.
Oh, am I meant to say something? I was done.
And
I'm John.
Hey, great. And good night.